Hello, my name is Peter Giglio, and I'm coming to you from my home in Savannah, Georgia, which I share with my beautiful fiance and fellow author Shannon Michaels, to talk about my latest release, a novel titled Lesser Creatures. Lesser Creatures was just released this week by the good folks at DarkFuse. DarkFuse, of course, being a name synonymous with great horror, dark fantasy, science fiction, and thrillers. And I've been a huge fan as a reader of DarkFuse, previously Delirium, for the last decade. So it's a huge thrill to be showcased among such fine talent with such a fantastic publisher. Lesser Creatures is the most fun I've had writing a book. And once I started the writing process, everything just flowed very naturally, and really just came out very well. But one of the things that you probably will notice from the synopsis, or maybe you can tell from the cover, is that Lesser Creatures is technically a zombie novel. And if you're like me, you may be asking yourself the question, why should I read another zombie novel? Or more importantly, you may be asking yourself the question, why should I read this zombie novel? What makes it different? A lot of the feedback that I've received on this book so far is that it is different. And I'm happy that I'm getting that feedback because that was the intent. I wanted to write a zombie novel that's not anything like another zombie novel that you've read. Now, whether I've succeeded in doing that is up to you as a reader, but the fact that that has been vetted by DarkFuse and that is the intent of this book, I think is a compelling reason to check this title out, give it a try. And if you like it, please tell your local librarians to order it, get it into local bookstores, tell your friends on Facebook and Twitter about it, pass copies of it to family members. I mean, obviously, what you do is up to you. But I would love nothing more than to have word of mouth. I know that when books move me, I move books. Because I love books, and I hope if you're somebody who loves books as well and wants to get great books out there that say something different and do something a little bit different than how it's been done before, that you help me move this book, that you help me and DarkFuse move this book, because we would love nothing more, not just from a monetary gain perspective, although that is part of it, to bring you more books set within the universe of Lesser Creatures. But the only way that that's ever going to happen is if we have some success, a market to sell that book to. So let's just take it one step at a time. But I'm very excited about Lesser Creatures. I think it offers the market a new, fresh take on zombies. And I think that it's much more than just another zombie novel. I started writing this book after I had reread two of my favorite novels from Philip K. Dick, Dr. Blood Money and eBook. Some people have have questioned the comparison to this and other Philip K. Dick books, in that this is nothing like a Philip K. Dick book, and it's really not. But the inspiration from the book came from those books. Philip K. Dick asked great questions. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why his properties are so sought after by Hollywood right now. Is the material was then and still is now so fresh. Because he came at things from such a different point of view. And that's what I wanted to do with Lesser Creatures. My writing style is nothing like Philip K. Dick's, and I don't have the same worldview that Philip K. Dick has. And in fact, I was born in 1972. In 1972, Philip K. Dick, who was a prolific author, had already written most of his books. So I don't share his worldview. It would be impossible, and I don't write like him. I'm Peter Giglio, and my books are my books, and I write them from my point of view. But I did I was intrigued by three questions. One that he had asked, that I felt he had asked in Dr. Blood Money, and two that I felt that he had asked in eBook. And the first question from Dr. Blood Money was, what if the apocalypse could be brought about by somebody simply by the power of their mind? In other words, what if somebody was gifted mystically with the ability to bring about the end of the world? With the power of their mind. And then two questions that were in eBook. The first one being, what if there was a state of being, what Philip K. Dick called a half-life, in which a person was neither dead nor alive? And then the second of those is, what if the emerging God within that half-life, within that world, that in-between world, if you will, was an angry child? Now, I didn't really take these questions and put them into the book in such a way. I changed the questions, and I changed the way that they were set up, and I wrote a book that was uniquely my own, and a book that reads nothing like a Philip K. Dick book. But I did those were my initial questions and what got me working on Lesser Creatures. And the way it became a zombie novel is I was really just looking at the zombie obsession, our apocalypse ready world, which is really, I think we are an apocalypse ready generation. And I think that's why the zombie culture, it really is a zombie culture, but why the zombie phenomena is one that just won't die is because we feel, in our current culture, we feel so much like we're on the brink of an apocalypse. But as I look at history and as I consider every generation, I think that that's common. One of the things that really in being an observer of the human condition that one quickly can ascertain is that we adapt very quickly. That whereas something can initially be shocking, whether that be in recent events, 9/11 we'll use as an example, something that can be very, very shocking and very profound, and of course that was a very shocking and profound event, but that it becomes a game changer. It changes how we live. It changes how, and that these things at first are very difficult, but that over time that event fades into the past and we begin to accept the changes and the way our world has changed. Whether we're talking about a pre-Vietnam generation or a post-Vietnam generation, a pre-World War generation or a post-World War generation, we all are either close to those monumental game changers or we're further away from them. For people who are my age, I'm 41 years old, so when 9/11 occurred, I was in my late 20s. So 9/11 for me is very close and it's very real. But for somebody who was born the year after 9/11, they're a child growing up. They know nothing different than a post 9/11 world. Their world is post 9/11. They never experienced a pre 9/11 world. So the world in which they live is just the world. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to ease the reader into a world in which the dead had been walking the earth for the last 15 years. And rather than write a post-apocalyptic book, I wanted to write a brink of apocalypse book in which all of these changes that had occurred based on this big event of the dead rising were just accepted parts of society. That the dead going to decontamination units to be cleansed of all the, contaminants, the things that might get us sick from having corpses walk around, would just be as common as you or I driving through a car wash. It would be just as common as the security interrogations that we might experience getting on an airplane, the process that we go through. So it would become part of the routine, that it would be a world in which, yes, this dramatic event had happened. The dead had started to rise, and they were part of our culture. But it's been 15 years, and people have adapted to it. Of course, that doesn't mean there isn't opposition. That doesn't mean that there isn't conflict. But that means that I've brought you into a world that's on the brink of an apocalypse, rather than, or at least mentally is on the brink of an apocalypse, rather than bring you into some post-apocalyptic wasteland in which, a bomb has just gone off or a zombie virus has just changed everything. So there were some things I had to do differently. My zombies, which I call second lifers, are not, they're not cannibals. They're not ravenous cannibals that eat human flesh. They are rapidly decaying bodies, and it's simply part of an overpopulation problem. This gave me an opportunity to work with a lot of social commentary within a novel that's part science fiction, part horror, and part thriller. But I didn't want it to be a busy novel. I wanted it to be very focused. So what I did was I was thinking about a dark weekend of the soul and three characters. Three characters that could sort of create a triangle within that dark weekend of the soul where the fate of humanity was in the balance. And that's what Lesser Creatures really focuses on. In addition to being part horror and part sci-fi and part thriller, it's also a love story. It's a strange love story. But regardless of what generation people live in, human beings are always after the same thing. They're after love. They're after companionship. They're after food. I mean, the human animal is really just... We often read science fiction books, or I often read science fiction books in which human beings have become more machine than human, or, it's pew, pew, pew. I mean, it just gets to be sometimes, it feels like people aren't acting like people. And regardless, through history, people have always been interested in the same things. They've always wanted to be loved. They've always wanted to be nourished. They've always wanted... They've always sought spirituality, regardless of what religious bent they are. But they've always, and if they've not sought spirituality, they've sought the opposite of that, which is their own kind of spirituality, humanism, or whatever it might be. People have always sought a higher purpose, a greater reason, to justify their existence. So I wanted to write a book in which all of that was explored, but also write a book that was entertaining, that was thrilling, that was a thriller at the same time that it was dealing with social commentary and an illumination of the human condition, and was a love story. But in doing all of this, I didn't want it to be busy. I didn't want it to feel like a mashup. So I really had to focus my attention on these three people in this one weekend. And that's what I did. And I'm very proud of how it came out. I'm very proud of this book. And I hope that you read it, that you give it a try. It's very different than other zombie novels that are out there. Again, the title is Lesser Creatures, released by DarkFuse, available in paperback, as an ebook, and a limited edition hardcover. If you enjoy the book, I hope you tell your librarians to order it. Talk to local bookstores. Get it into your town's bookstore, your city's bookstore. Tell your family members and friends about it. The holidays are coming up. Give it away as a gift. It's really a book that I'm proud of. And the execution, whether I've executed properly, again, that's completely up to you, the reader. But it is my hope that you give Lesser Creatures a try, and that if you like it, that you tell other people about it. Again, my name is Peter Giglio. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you letting me talk a little bit about my new book. And you can follow me at petergiglio.com or follow me on Facebook and Twitter. My handle at Twitter is petergiglio1. At Facebook, I'm just Peter Giglio. You can ask me questions about the book at petergiglio.com, which links to my email. I'd be happy to help you out. Or if you just want to spread the word and you need some information from me, I'm more than happy to help out as well. Thank you for your time. Thank you for considering my work, and have a great day.